Kyan is a run-of-the-mill pathetic corporate slave who works in many different companies after graduating from university. As expected, he faces petty difficult bosses everywhere and experiences office politics. Currently, he runs through the city to catch his train, and just as the train's doors are closing, he barely manages to jump inside at the very last second. He then reaches his destination and rushes to his office, where he marks his attendance a second before the official time. Once he is clocked in, the day passes by quickly until it's lunchtime, at which he struggles hard to order food for himself. He quickly eats his lunch and sits down to play a game during his break, but his manager keeps popping around to catch him while he is playing. Since Kyan is an experienced fraudster, he easily switches his screen whenever his manager is around. The day passes by, and when it's time to clock off, his manager appears and demands him to send presentation slides, although they aren't due for a week. Kyan imagines that he is scolding his manager and is even threatening to sue him if he doesn't pay him good severance money in case he fires him, but in reality, he quietly sits down on his seat and resumes working. He keeps working till late at night, and he then gets a message from his friend who has sent him a suspicious link to check his fortune. His phone slips from his hands to the trash bin and the link gets accidentally pressed. Suddenly, a strange phenomenon starts to occur as the phone emits bright light, and a lot of cash comes out of the phone. The cash surrounds Kyan and transports him inside the phone. Kyan gets woken up by his friend Ma Young, and he realizes that he is actually in his dorm. Slowly, he comes to realize that he has been transported back in time to when he was in his first semester, and he wonders how he can go to his present. Just then, a display screen pops up in his room which announces that he has merged with the future conversion system. A robot pops up on the screen and introduces himself as the richest. He explains to Kyan that he has been given 50,000 yen as a startup fund which he can only use for the company's standard operations only, and that the system will automatically calculate his profit or loss based on a random rate. He cannot take any money from the fund but can transfer his profit or loss earned into his personal assets and uses that money. Kyan thinks that the purpose of the system is to lose the money, so he immediately agrees to the game, and Richest asks him to select the type of company he wants to register. Kyan thinks for a while on his own, and he decides to join the gaming industry since he thinks he can easily lose money in the gaming industry. He tells Richest about his industry, and after Richest registers Kyan's company, which is named Tengda Technology, it warns Kyan to keep the identity of the future conversion system a secret. It also tells Kyan that he has 2 weeks to develop his business, and then it disappears. Kyan wonders how he can develop a game in 2 weeks, and his friend Ma Young tells him about the ESRO system, in which games can be developed easily through buying cheap and common gaming components such as display and style without using any coding. Kyan rushes away and hurriedly buys some cheap display settings like a car and a racing course for his game by utilizing all of his given fund. The ESRO AI guides him about the gaming tactics, and to make the game even more boring, Kyan makes it an 8 hours long driving course game which can be bought in 1 yuan. He thinks that the game is too long and boring, and since it can be purchased with 1 yuan, no one will buy it. Since he has got such a big brain, he thinks he will end up making a loss, due to which he will become rich. The next day, Kyan checks the gaming ranking website to check whether his pathetic game has any downloads, and he feels relieved to see that nobody has downloaded it. His roommates gather around to play a multiplayer game together, and he tells them that he is taking a nap so he cannot join them. His friends start without him, and he thinks about how they are still playing games like in the past. He lays down to rest, and Young asks him whether their noise is bothering him, but he doesn't mind it. He thinks about how he has missed the noise of his friends and how he earned money to buy lots of games in the future through corporate slavery, but he never had the time or energy to play games anymore. Of course, he misses his student life, and he keeps thinking about how he will be loaded soon. A content creator named Kyo runs a show called Bad Game Roasts, in which he roasts bad games, but since he doesn't have a sponsor for his show, he hardly earns any money. His goal is to become a top 100 content creator, and he wishes to find a game that sucks badly to gain attention. As Kyo is scrolling through various games, he comes across Kyan's game, which is called Lonely Desert Road, and since it has a nicely written introduction, he decides to play it. The game starts immediately when he starts it, and he crashes the car at the start, which prompts him to play the game again. He resumes playing, and up next his kettle blows a whistle which distracts him, so he ends up crashing inside the car. Kyan asks Richest about the latest stats of his business during his class, and he also overhears some of his classmates talking about a game which is addictive and requires 8 hours of continuous play. He runs out of his class and rushes to his dorm where he discovers that his game now has a few thousand downloads. Young shows him an episode of Kaio's show in which Kaio tells his audience about Kaien's game and how it requires the gamer to waste 8 hours of their life. Meanwhile, Kaien writes down in his game description that he is sorry for such a boring game and that everyone should get a refund and stop playing the game. His audience tells him that getting a refund is a lengthy process, and they roast his game but still continue to play it. His friend Young plays the game and roasts it as well, but still the game keeps getting viral as more people keep roasting it. Kaien wonders what he should do since he cannot get a lot of money if his game becomes profitable. At a sus-looking place, a girl reports to her manager Lai about the latest game companies, and they discuss a particularly new company game that has received many downloads. Lai reminds his assistant that he wants a complete monopoly in the gaming industry and tells her to keep a close eye on the new company. She whines about the fact that Lai doesn't even know her name, so Lai fires her on the spot. Kaien searches on the internet on how to lose money since his monkey brain cannot work properly, and he only gets stupid ideas, so he shuts down his laptop. Since he has earned 70,000 yuans from the game, according to the future conversion system rules, he can only get 1% of his earning if he is earning profit, which makes him entitled to 700 yuans only. Richest congratulates him on developing a game that has reached the top 10% in his niche, and he adds 300,000 more yuans into his account. Richest explains that according to the rules, the game's second round has begun, and since his funds were below the original requirement, more amount has been added into his account. Kaien now has to use 300,000 within 30 days to make a loss to earn money, and if he makes profit again, he can only get 1% of the profit amount. He decides to give it his best to lose all 300,000 yuans, and when Yang invites him to play games, he agrees. Kaien then plays games with his roommates, and they all roast Yang for being a deadweight since they keep losing because of Yang. Yang roasts Kaien for keeping all the kills to himself, and Kaien calls him a useless deadweight. He then gets an idea from all the commotion, and later he tells himself that he can use a professional deadweight like Yang to lose all his money. He thinks about how Yang is a natural idiot who will flop any project he takes on, so he keeps stalking Yang the next day. He announces like a creep that he wants Yang, which creeps out the people around him, and later he asks Yang to help him develop a game. He reveals that he was the maker of Lonely Desert Road, which earned him 300,000 games, and that he plans to make another game now which requires Yang's help. Yang gets hooked in immediately, and he rushes to the store to buy a bunch of books on programming to help Kaien out. Kaien reminds him that they can make games without any coding with ESRO's help, but still Yang tries to read the books to get some knowledge. Kaien thinks that he has hired the right guy who is a proper retard on such matters, and he decides to use the same tactic as the last time, which is to make a game that sucks a lot so that nobody plays it. According to the rules, he cannot waste his funds or else he will incur a penalty, and this time Kaien decides to develop a mobile game since he believes that a web-based game will attract the same audience as last time due to his company's fame now. In mobile games, the most famous category is card games, which is a competitive market, and Kaien decides to rip off the most famous game, Three Kingdoms, so that its fans will hate his own custom-created game due to which nobody will play it. He even decides to hire game developers to spend his money since the same features can be bought online in ESRO and lesser money. And he tells Yang that he should change the stories of the characters within Third Kingdom game since he believes that game fans will really hate it if the story is changed. Yang tells him that he has never watched anything about the Third Kingdom, so he doesn't know any details about the characters, and Kaien prompts him to use his imagination to change the stories of the characters however he wants. Kaien firmly believes that Yang will mess up everything by making up stupid stories, and he even promotes him to a full-time employee who will get 3,000 yuans every month for his service. Lai's new assistant tells him that their QQ Third Kingdom game is losing active players, and Lai argues that card games are on a decline, so it doesn't matter. His assistant tells him about how Tengda Technology, which is Kaien's company, is venturing into card games, but Lai thinks that Kaien's company only wants to gain his attention. He then fires his new assistant when the assistant tries to correct his name. Late at night, Kaien thinks about how Yang's stupid stories are bound to make the game fail. He then decides to hire an amateur designer to make crappy designs for his game, which will make the game fail even more. Kaien gives Yang a treat, and he thinks about how the system determined Yang's salary, otherwise he would have paid him more. Yang proposes to turn the game characters into females, and Kaien immediately yells out no, which gains the attention of the others around them. Kaien thinks about how a lot of otakus will download the game if the characters are female, but he tells Yang that he wants to retain some originality in the characters, which convinces Yang. They both then go on a boat ride in which they discuss that they need to hire someone to make concept designs for their card, and once again Yang proposes to hire famous artists. But since Kyan wants the game to fail, he doesn't agree with him. Yang assumes that Kyan doesn't want any famous artists to outshine their skills, so he agrees to hire unknown novice artists. And their bonding makes the boat rider think that they are rainbow bros who have the hots for each other. Yang thinks that Kyan really cares about the players, so he even asks Kyan to let him design the characters, but Kyan doesn't agree to his buffoonery. They keep arguing passionately, which ends up toppling the boat in the water. Afterwards, Kyan reveals that he has already decided to hire an artist from ESRO who excels in making chibi drawings, and he thinks that the artist will suck in drawing, but he tells Yang that the chibi artist will probably come up with a unique art style. They both hold an online meeting with the artist Ruin, in which Kyan tells Ruin that he wants a groundbreaking art style. Ruin quotes a high price of 2,000 per set for 50 sets that he has to make, but Kyan thinks that the price is too low since he wants to waste his fund. He quotes a price of 35,000 instead, and when Richest gives him a warning not to dramatically increase his price, he tells Ruin that 35,000 yuan includes any amendment fees as well. They sign a digital contract with Ruin and tell him that he only has 2 weeks to finish all the designs. Ruin urges them to give him some design reference, but Kyan tells him that he believes in his art style, and he can draw outside the box however he wants. This unintentionally motivates Ruin a lot, and after the call ends, he decides to exert all blood, sweat, and tears into his designs. Kyan then tells Yang to handle all art and design since he will be busy with other aspects of the game, and Yang announces to scrutinize Ruin's work a lot since he believes Ruin has an attitude. In the meanwhile, Kyan thinks that Yang's supervision will suck, due to which they will get trashy designs at the end. He thinks about other ways in which he can make the game fail, and he decides to set the game purchase price at 10 yuan, which is double the normal price. He also decides to put no limit on rare cards within the game, which goes against usual card games and which will make the players bored of the game. He then starts buying all the game features which he thinks will fail the game, like outdated visual system, outdated animation effects, and corny music. At the same time, Ruin and his team cannot figure out how they are supposed to design the characters for the game, since the characters list that Yang gave them doesn't make any sense. They think that the characters are too random, and his team tells Ruin to give up since they think that the client must be a fraud, but Ruin gives them an epic speech about morals and passion for art. He endlessly yaps about the love for art, which motivates his team, and he orders them to fine-tune all the designs while he will make the initial drafts. The whole team works day and night on the designs, and they submit everything to Yang one day before the deadline. Yang informs Kyan about the designs in mid-sleep, and Kyan just tells him to put the designs in the game if he likes them. Kyan also sleepily names the game Phantom General, while Ruin wonders whether the audience will accept his style. The next day, Yang informs Kyan that the game is running without any bugs, and Kyan decides to launch it later in the day. He also decides to put in the description that the game is just an ordinary game to attract less attention. Yang's roommates beat him up because he keeps making them lose their games, and just then Kyan bursts into the room. He drags Yang outside and asks him why the concept designs are so detailed, so Yang explains to him that Ruin has worked really hard on all the designs, and the designs are pro level, which they both weren't expecting to receive. Kyan whines like a little baby about how he should have paid Ruin more money, but in reality he keeps thinking about how he should make his game fail now. He makes Yang leave, and he thinks that his game still has a chance at failing since a lot of games have good graphics. Soon Yang informs him that their game has 100 downloads, but everyone has posted a negative review, and when Kyan reads them, he becomes really excited since he can see his game failing now. Yang assures him that someone must have hired trolls to post negative reviews, and he even attempts to reply to every negative review, but Kyan stops him and tells him to let it be, which makes Yang think that Kyan is a Sigma Chad who doesn't care about some low-level reviews. Later, Ruin asks Yang about his designing and whether Kyan likes his designs, and Yang gives him good feedback. When Ruin and his team check the game out, they wonder why the game description says that the game is ordinary. They also discover that the game is made by Tengda Technology, which made the Lonely Desert Road game as well, and they decide to give the game a chance. Ruin plays the game and finds the game easy to play and not too complicated. He also notices his cool designing, and the fact that he can get rare cards easily also makes him excited. He notices something peculiar in the game, so he instantly calls Yang and asks him why there is only one item in the shop, which is a lifetime membership card for 30 yuans that allows users to get rare cards forever each day. Yang explains to him that Kyan didn't even want to put in a membership card in the beginning, but he still put one, and that he doesn't want to rip off the users since the game already costs 10 yuans to purchase. They both discuss how Yuan is such a nice guy who cares about others, and Yang also tells him that Kyan doesn't have any budget for marketing since he has spent all of his money in developing the game. After the call, Ryuan's team discusses how nice Kyan is, and Ryuan declares to help out Kyan at any cost. Soon Yang rushes to Kyan and informs him that they are rich as the game has had more than 10,000 downloads in one night. Kyan reads out all the 5-star reviews on his game, and he notices that people keep commenting on the concept designs, so he calls Ryuan and asks him whether he has helped in the marketing of the game. Ryuan tells him that he is involved with a group of artists who really liked his concept design when he initially shared it with them, and that the design helped him attract a lot of attention in his circle. He explains that he really wanted to help the game out, so he asked his network to promote the game, and the game started going viral after that. Kyan scolds him for butting in his business, but Ryuan just compliments his game and tells him that he couldn't bear to see him lose his money. Kyan angrily shuts the call and mopes around about the whole situation. A person reports to Lai that the game Phantom General is about to surpass his QQ3 Kingdoms game, even though they hired trolls to post negative reviews in the beginning. Lai tells him that Tengda Technology is deliberately going after him and that he is their actual target. He orders his new assistant to move ahead to acquire Tengda Technology, and this time his assistant doesn't argue back, due to which he doesn't get fired like the last two imbeciles. The ESRO customer representative puts Phantom General on the recommended list of games to be played due to its high number of downloads, and Kyan calls them to request them to remove the game from the list. He makes an excuse that others' games deserve this prestige more, and Richest warns him that he will get a warning if he sabotages his own game, so Kyan doesn't go forward with his request. Kyan then requests Richest to modify his terms of sharing of profit or loss, but Richest refuses to listen to a loser like him. Later, Richest gives him a total breakdown in which Kyan earns 1% of the total profit, which amounts to around $2,000, and for the next round Kyan is asked to spend 500,000 yuans to make the next game. Since he already has funds available, Richest doesn't add any more funds, and once again Kyan feels hopeless since he cannot believe he keeps earning profits. In the meanwhile, Lai asks his assistant to acquire Tengda at any cost. Later, Kyan gets a call from Young telling him that Fuyui Capital wants to acquire his company, but Richest warns him that he cannot sell off his company. Yang informs him that Fuyui is offering him 50 million more, but he refuses their offer. Fuyui keeps increasing the offer price, but Kyan rejects all of their offers, much to his sadness, and when Fuyui offers to invest money in his company, Kyan comments that he already has too much money that he cannot spend. He instead asks Yang to ask Fuyui whether he can invest money in their company instead. When Lai hears about this, he feels humiliated to witness that a kid like Kyan has so much aura, and he decides to pay even more attention to Kyan. Young treats Kyan to a barbecue, and he asks him why he looks upset even though he must have earned a few thousand yuans at least. Kyan thinks about how he has more than 1,000,000 yuan that he needs to spend, and when Yang gets the bill, he asks Yuan whether he can get an official reimbursement since the bill is too high. Kyan rushes outside and asks Richest whether such bills can be reimbursed because they contribute to their official team building, and Richest approves his request, but he doesn't allow him to claim any of his day-to-day expenses. Kyan tells Yang about this news, and they both watch the news about some new technological advancement. Yang comments whether their company can grow big someday, and Kyan gets an idea that he should start his own company to hire many people so that there are a lot of expenses like rent, utilities. Since he doesn't know how to run a company, they both decide to look for an expert who knows how to run companies. At the Furry Sky office, production officer Zhu reviews a list, and he calls to tell somebody that everyone other than Lin Wan are laid off. Just then his employee Lin Wan walks in and gives him her resignation letter. She explains that she doesn't think her dreams can be realized in his company, and she walks away. Zhu then calls Mr. Lin and congratulates him that Lin has left her dreams of developing games and that she will surely join the family business now. Kyan and Young approach an agency to hire someone to look after the company, and the guy there treats them like trash since he thinks that they are a bunch of college students who are looking for a job. Kyan offers a salary of 400,000 yuan to hire a resource, which makes the agency representative take them seriously. He tells them about different types of executives who can help their company out, and Kyan tells him that he needs a female, so the agent tells him about a girl named Xin Heilu who is very efficient and always minds her own business. Kyan agrees to hire her, and as they head out, Kyan comes across Lin on the way, who is listening to some news about Tengda. Kyan tells Lin not to focus on Tengda too much since the company doesn't even focus too much on their product, but Lin scolds him for thinking this way. The agent walks Kyan and Yang outside after booking an appointment with them to meet up with Heilu, and when he walks back inside, he asks Lin whether she has come to his agency to look for a job. She tells him that she specifically wants a job in Tengda, so he tells her that Kyan was actually from Tengda. She runs after him, but he has already left. Kyan meets up with Haelu, who commends him on his startup, and he agrees to hire her on the condition that she can only advise him when he needs her and that she should mind her own business otherwise. Since they don't have an office space, they look for an office at the most expensive building, and Kyan decides to buy the whole floor. The agent quotes him a price of 300,000, but Kyan tells him that he is offering a very cheap price and that he should increase his rates. The rent gets decided on 400,000 yuan, and he tells Haelu to spend 2 million on office suppliers. He then starts getting a warning from Riches that he is overspending intentionally, so he decreases the budget to 800,000 and tells Haelu to buy the most extravagant equipment for his office. He explains that the employees need a lavish area where they can work and how the office should have a filled pantry, a lavish meeting area, and similar places. She asks him to think about his own office as well and suggests that he stay in a 2-bedroom apartment where he can live comfortably and carry out his different operations. Since this does not completely classify as his personal expense, he agrees, and up next she shows him a recruitment policy to hire more workers. Kyan thinks that the policy is too strict, due to which it will only attract elite workers, so he tells Haelu that he will hire the core development team while she can deal with the rest of the recruitment. She also tells him to upgrade his style, which is necessary for a startup founder like him, and that since it's a necessary business expense, he can file a claim with the company. Kyan's style gets upgraded from looking like a homeless ape to a well-bred young elite, and he thinks about how he will keep lavishly spending to make his company fail. He decides to hire more losers just like Yang, so he goes to his usual gaming cafe and looks for Bao Zhu there. He recalls how his college has a nerd Bao Zhu who failed in every subject because he kept playing games, and who holed up in the internet cafe day and night to play games only. He then approaches Bao Zhu, who seems like he is from the primitive world, and offers him a job as a developer. Bao Zhu replies that he doesn't know how to develop games, and Kyan gives him a preppy motivational speech that only he can know how to develop great games since he must be tired of playing mediocre games. He even gives him an advanced salary, and Bao Zhu decides to accept his offer. Bao Zhu thinks that he has gotten an opportunity of a lifetime, while Kyan thinks that Bao Zhu is a shut-in loner who will definitely make the company fail. Kyan decides to hire some more loafers to increase the company expense, and he cannot believe that his plan, which a 2-year-old could come up with, is going so smoothly. The next day he wakes up late and hurries to his office, where he comes across an interviewee named Huang on the way. Huang shares that his current job makes him work overtime, due to which he wants to switch, and they both meet Huang's supervisor on the elevator, who had also come to interview for Tengda. Huang's supervisor makes fun of him, and Kyan assures Huang that Tengda would never hire a person like Huang's supervisor. Afterwards, Kyan introduces himself to Huang as the CEO of Tengda, and after noticing what a fine shit Kyan is, Huang decides to leave since he believes that he can never get hired. Kyan decides to hire Huang, and Huang tells him that his last salary was 15,000 yuan. Kyan instead offers him 4,000 yuan since he is desperate to lose money, and Huang promises to sacrifice his life for Tengda's sake. After wasting his whole day, Kyan is about to go home when Haelu tells that a girl wants to meet up with him at any cost, even if she cannot get an interview. Lin Wan walks inside, and she barges Kyan with questions about the gaming industry and whether he wants to earn money or wants people to enjoy his games. She keeps throwing questions at him which make her think that Kyan is some kind of eccentric CEO who wants the best for people, while Haelu tells Kyan that Lin used to work for Furry Studio and that she almost got laid off too. Kyan thinks that Lin is a wasted worker, so he decides to hire her on the spot. Kyan's roommates where he has been recently since they haven't seen him, and Yang tells them that he and Kyan have been working part-time, due to which Kyan has rented a place outside somewhere. At Tengda office, Huang cannot believe he has to work so little and that he doesn't have to work overtime. Lin also comments that they all have to play games only, and they wonder what Kyan's end goal is. Lin tells the others that Kyan probably wants them to understand what kind of problems users face by playing different kinds of games, and Bao tells Huang that he has been playing different kinds of games to become more experienced for Kyan's sake. They all arrive at the conclusion that Kyan must want them to feel guilty because they only play games throughout the day, and that they will all work extra hard when a new project comes in. In the meanwhile, Kyan wastes his time in his house as he brainstorms on different ideas on how to make his company fail. He comes up with a new idea, and he rushes to Tengda to tell the employees. At the same time, Tengda employees complain to Haelu that they waste their time the whole day, and just then Kyan walks inside. He tells them that he has been thinking about Tengda's future, and that for their next project they will develop a one-first shooter game. He chooses this genre since he knows such kind of games always flop, but he explains to the employees that Tengda wants to develop innovative market competitive games that will be better than any game out there, and he starts yapping about how he could have hired skilled experts in the market, but he still chose to hire rookies like themselves because they are all young people who can think outside the box. He manages to motivate all the employees and tells them that he will give instructions in the early stages only, while Huang and Bao Zhu will manage the rest. Later, he tells Huang and Bao Zhu that the game should have simple controls, plus it should have a very long and interesting story, and it should have many unique weapons that can be purchased inside the game. The others tell him that one-person shooter games are played by hardcore gamers who don't like simple controls, and that they are all rookies, so they can't possibly come up with long interesting stories for the game. Huang argues that in the Phantom General game there was limited purchasing inside the game which made the game famous, but Kyan tells them both to believe in themselves. Secretly, he thinks that he has finally managed to figure out how to make the game fail, and he tells them both to come up with a draft in 1 week. Later, he leaves work feeling all happy, and he feels satisfied to see that all the workers have also left other than Bao Zhu, who is playing games. When he leaves, Huang sneaks out from under the table and tells Bao Zhu that his passion is to become an overworked corporate slave who can reach up to Kyan's expectations. He keeps working till late at night, and they both discuss that they should spend less money on game features that are not important. Bao Zhu then shares a game idea in which the player has to fight at an oil rag stranded in an ocean where the player has to face hordes of mummies, and he explains how they can make the controls simple according to Kyan's demand. To add a story in the game, they decide to introduce a small girl who won't speak since speaking requires more money in the form of dubbing. Instead, they decide to let the girl lead the players in a way that the player will have to figure out the girl's movement and solve puzzles to move forward in the game. They then both discuss what kind of weapons they should put in the game, and they keep brainstorming till the next morning. Huang keeps sneakily doing overtime to meet his deadlines, and he and Bao Zhu coordinate with each other to work on the game, while Yang discovers them both overworking, which is against company rules. Later during class, Kyan gets a message from Huang that the game's design framework is complete but its approval is pending. Kyan starts to become worried that the game won't fail if the framework is good, and Yang snitches to him that Huang has been working overtime secretly. Kyan decides to confront Huang, but Yang tells him that he works overtime to play games on the computer, which puts his mind at ease. He sends a message to Huang approving the framework and tells him to keep working on the game. He also tells Yang to just ignore Huang since his employees need to play games too. Meanwhile, Tengda team gets Kyan's approval, and this motivates them even more since they think that Kyan trusts them completely, which hypes them up. They keep working day and night to develop the game, and Bao Zhu explains to Huang in layman terms by showing him similar games wherever Huang gets stuck. Kyan wastes his time around, and he wonders why his company fund keeps increasing, and why the system won't let him remove the past games from his record. Yang arrives at his house to tell him that Huang has motivated all of the employees to work overtime, but he phrases it in a way which makes Kyan think that his employees are only playing around. He decides to give all the employees overtime pay to spend more money and orders Yang to take on this responsibility. The next day, Huang submits the project proposal to him, which Kyan doesn't want to review because it seems too lengthy. He instead sets up a food bar for everyone at the company and tells the employees that their lunch is free. He also hires professional trainers for everyone to train them for physical fitness while the official gym is under renovation. Soon he gives overtime pay to his employees, and Lin tells him on behalf of his employees that they cannot take the overtime pay as a token of their gratitude. He pleads to Lin to take the money, and since Lin has the hots for him, she fails to refuse him. The others understand why she couldn't refuse him, and they decide to put in even more effort to perfect the game. Kyan then calls Bao Zhu and asks him why Huang has spent 670,000 yuan on the game. Bao Zhu starts explaining that they tried limiting custom creations to limit the budget, and Kyan instead asks him to double the budget to do whatever they all want to do. He reminds him that he originally came to work for him to make the best game possible, and Bao Zhu decides to buy some servers as a start, but Kyan tells him to increase the other expenses first before moving to the servers. Lai makes someone call the furry sky officer, and Zhu from the studio assures him that he will take care of the employees of Tengda. Lai's assistant tells him that Tengda's employees are all rookies other than his assistant, but Lai insists to poach them all for his own benefit. Bao Zhu analyzes other games similar to their game to learn more about how he can make the game better, and the others keep coming to him for approvals, which starts to overwhelm him a lot. Hwang steps in and starts helping him by giving approvals to the others. He takes care of all of the work for Bao Zhu to help him out. Suddenly everyone starts to get calls from a random number. A month later, as the semester comes to an end, Kyan notices that Yang is not in his class. He then gets a call from Yang, who tells him that Furry Studio is planning to poach all of his employees and that the Project Oil Rig is in trouble. Kyan rushes to his office and sees that everything has been deserted. He imagines that everyone left off after getting contacted by Furry Studio, and Yang tries to weakly convince him that they can start from scratch again, while Kyan thinks that he didn't even know about the team's progress, so he doesn't know what to do. Suddenly his team appears and Hailu tells him that they all turned down offers made by the Furry Studio. Yang doesn't believe this, and the team explains to him that they all enjoy working in Tengda, where they get a lot of benefits and a relaxing environment. They all also like Kyan a lot, which motivated them to stay in the company, and they explain that they were actually in the AV room to test the game out because the game finished before the scheduled time. The team shows Kyan the progress that they have made, and Kyan cannot believe that they would finish the game so early. They explain to him that they have a lot of time to make improvements and to fix bugs, due to which they finished early, while Kyan starts thinking of ideas on how to delay their testing. He decides to announce a team-building event for the team, which will require a lot of company funds as well, and just then Lai's assistant appears. Lai's assistant tells Kyan that he tried to poach his employees and troll his game on Lai's instruction, and that now he wants to switch into his company since he has gotten inspired by his excellence and his never-ending riz. Kyan asks the employees where they want to go, and later, when they are all brainstorming, Lin tells the others that she wants them to visit Furry Studio, which is a huge gaming developer studio, so that they can learn from Kyan's habits. Kyan overhears this and he agrees to go to Furry Studio since he wants his workers to feel demotivated after seeing a large gaming studio. Meanwhile, Lin thinks that Kyan wants to go to the studio because of her, since she lives in Delulu Land. They all visit the area first, and Kyan tells everyone to file claims for all expenses that they will do at the hotel. He asks Hailu why she didn't book a luxurious hotel since their budget is 350,000 yuan, and she tells him that Lin told her that their budget is 450,000 yuan. They reach the Furry Studio, and Ju's assistant tells him that Tengda's employees have arrived to learn more about them. She wonders whether they have actually come due to the poaching incident, but Ju doesn't think that Kyan is so naive to visit his enemy's office due to such a reason. Ju's assistant welcomes everyone inside the building, which is huge and is built luxuriously. Kyan then meets up with Ju and keeps thinking about how he can waste more money by inviting the Furry Studios people to an outing, while Ju realizes that Kyan seems like a rich kid with a custom-made suit, so he needs to be wary of him. Ju decides to give a limited edition doll to Kyan, so he goes to a side, and just then Kyan's whole team meets up with him. They tell him that the studio is very mid compared to their own office because the working space is cramped and the computers don't have high specs, while the studio seems like it doesn't spend too much money on the working environment. Ju ends up hearing all of it and also notices Lin, so he comments how Lin actually moved from a huge company to a startup. Ju then announces a formal corporate exchange event in which Furry Studios employees meet up with Tengda's team in a meeting room. Yang asks Ju why so many employees are working overtime on a Saturday, so Ju reveals that it's normal for the employees to work on Saturdays. Yang then comments that he must give them a lot of overtime pay, which embarrasses Ju since he doesn't give any overtime pay to his employees according to gaming industry customs. Ju's assistant once again roasts Lin for joining such a mid-company, so Kyan asks Lin to explain to everyone about their company's creative direction. Lin starts ranting to everyone about how Kyan's revolutionary ideas have helped change the industry and how each game has brought innovation into the gaming industry. Kyan thinks she is speaking nonsense while the others clap for her lame speech. Ju then takes the lead and announces that he is going to tell everyone about their new game. His assistant tries to stop him, but he says that it's alright because it will be released in a month anyways, and Tengda will try to avoid their game as much as possible. He reveals how the game focuses on experience and is also extremely realistic, which sends Hwang into despair as he realizes that Project Oil Rig is nothing compared to Furry Studios' Bullet Mark. He assumes that their game will fail, but sees Kyan's confident smile, which is in reality just him being happy that his game will fail. All the Tengda employees feel defeated after hearing about their game and return to their own office, where Hailu announces that all the employees have been granted 10 days of annual leave. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ju gets scolded by Lai for not informing him about Tengda's visit, and for even revealing so much information about their game, but Ju argues that Kyan is a very simple man that he can easily defeat. Lai comments that Kyan is a very terrifying man and intentionally chose the same release date, but Ju continues to yap about how he will easily defeat Tengda. The next day, Bao gives the feedback from the game to Huang, and they wonder if they need to improve it even further, but Lin steps forward to explain that Kyan wants them to be the best of the best, so they shouldn't just settle for being good. Heilu gets a call from Kyan telling her that he will not be coming to the office for a week, and the employees decide that they must improve the game's quality before Kyan returns. After several testing and improvements, Bao declares that Project Oil Rig is finally perfect, and on the other side, Kyan notices that he is finally losing some money, so he calls Heilu to tell her to arrange a cinema hall and karaoke to celebrate everyone's hard work with a budget of 350,000 yuan. They all go to the cinema, where the employees play a surprise video in which they tell Kyan that they can release the game a day earlier than Furry Studio, but Kyan objects that they must release it on the same date. The richest tells him not to delay the game for no reason, so Kyan doesn't say much, and they go to the restaurant where Kyan questions why no one took the annual leave, so Yang explains how he told everyone that playing games in the office is like a break too. Kyan scolds him for only eating ice cream instead of the expensive dishes because he wants the bill to be higher, and a drunken Bao steps on stage. He wishes the game to be a success, which feels like a curse to Kyan because he just wants it to fail, and they all celebrate while drinking. Lin notices how Kyan looks worried and assumes that he must be worried about the company's future, while in reality he's just calculating how he can waste more money during this celebration. Bao continues his sobbing speech while thanking Kyan for everything, and Lin continues to daydream about how great Kyan is. They all get knocked out for a whole day and end up launching the game on the same day as Furry Studio. Huang goes to Heilu to ask for a budget for a new test server using which they can quickly improve the game, and needs money to hire testers, but she explains that Kyan did not give a budget for it, but Lin takes the responsibility to handle the testing. Lin tells Baozu that she has sent Project Oil Rig to a veteran first-player shooter games player named Broken Halberd so that he can promote it when it gets released. Broken Halberd, with the world's corniest name, gets intrigued by the game when he sees that there's an in-game purchase of a very high amount of 888 yuan. The game starts abruptly and he notices that the graphics are smooth while the controls are all also plain and simple. He struggles to follow the plot in the beginning, but he soon catches up with the mute girl who leads him through the story. He follows the girl as mummies attack them both, and he then defeats the mummies with his gun. The girl then asks him for something to eat, and after he gives her candy, she leads him into an elevator where a mummy also ends up following them. The mummy pushes the player down and injures him, but the girl saves him and even heals his wound. The player, whose actual name is Chen Sha, visits the Tengda office soon, and he raves about how they have made such a game. He explains that there is still a gap between their game Project Oil Rig and high-quality international bestsellers, but the story mode is very captivating along with the game graphics. Lin comments that Chen actually begged to visit their office, and Chen even gets bombarded by a lot of his own fans while he is in Tengda. He keeps raving on about how beginner-friendly the game, but still self-claimed pro players like himself can play the game. Baozu and Huang thank him for yapping so much about the game, and Chen then gives him the special edition Desert Eagle version which she promised him. He also advises them to give a flashy name to their luxury shop special weapon, which costs 888 yuan, and the others tell him that it was actually Kyan's idea to have an expensive luxury weapon in the shop. Chen then promises to rave to his online fans about the game as much as possible, and he refuses to take any money because he likes the game so much. Yang tells Kyan in the class that he should go back to the office because things are a mess, and this makes Kyan feel happy since he deliberately slipped away from the office before anyone can ask him to launch any marketing campaigns. Yang then mentions that the backend data has been looking promising since the last 2 days, due to which the game is going viral. Kyan rushes to the office to correct this, and he notices that his team has a normal worried vibe going on, which assures him. Suddenly they all surround him and start raving on about how he has such a perfect market sense, since he knew that making the game go viral through word of mouth is more effective than over-the-top expensive marketing campaigns. They tell him that the game has gone viral, which soils his mood, and they all celebrate the success of the game while he wonders why the game is viral even after he gave them strict instructions to make the game easy, with a long storyline and with expensive in-store purchases. Huang gives him a report about the factors behind the success of the game, and he finds out that Lin actually asked Chen to play the game, due to which he did a free live stream and made the game viral. He reads the analysis, which gives him the information that the fact that the game was easy to use and had a good storyline made the game popular among the players, and he realizes that he was the actual culprit whose advice helped make the game go viral. In the meanwhile, his team discusses how cool Kyan is and how he always knows how to predict what the market wants in order to give the customers what they need. They think Kyan is this Sigma hotshot CEO who is at the top of the pinnacle due to his innovative ideas, while Kyan walks out of the office feeling more dejected than ever, and his team thinks that he looks very calm and collected. Lynn notices that he looks very agitated, so she asks him whether he is worried because their game crashed the market, and because the players are queuing to play the game. This makes him even more depressed, and Lynn promises to always keep him company. He then decides to involve his team members to spend all his money, and to go all out with his expenses. He wonders where he can increase the costs and asks Richest for a budget to update their games, but Richest reveals that he must add an in-game transaction if he wants to use money for it, so Kyan decides to give up on that and asks for an employee meal budget, but it gets rejected due to frequent meals. He asks to distribute the profit to employees, but Richest rejects it too due to industry norms, so he tries everything that comes to mind but nothing works out. He sits depressed in the office at night when he asks Halu how he can benefit the employees using the profit, so she tells multiple ways to increase the expenses from gift cards to claimable expenses. She gives him a formal report about all the expenses the next day, and Richest approves the whole list, so he quickly takes all the employees to the mall. He announces to them that they have a 35,000 claimable expense and a 1,000 yuan shopping card, so they quickly go inside where Kyan acts like a shopping guide. He makes Huang buy a 7,000 yuan laptop using an excuse about how it will improve his work efficiency, and continues to make others spend as much as possible. He notices how Lin isn't buying anything, and like a true spoiled princess she explains that she already has everything in this store. Kyan notices Fang buying some phone cases, so he forces him to buy the whole rack, and Lin daydreams about how great Kyan is to everyone. Afterwards, Kyan realizes that he still has a few thousand yuans that he has to spend even after all the employees have spent everything, so he asks Halu if there is something he has yet to buy, so she reveals that he needs a watch and a pen, so he quickly runs to get the most expensive watch, but the system limits it to a 40,000 yuan watch. He gets the most expensive pen along with the most expensive glasses, and Lin explains to others that Kyan isn't spending compared to how much profit he made through the game. With only a few seconds left, Kyan tries to buy a random perfume, but the system prevents it, so he buys it for Lin because the system approves it only for her. After the time ends, the system calculates everything, and Kyan finally manages to get a loss of 21,000 yuan for the first time. He bursts out in happiness and tells the employees to come to the office early the next day. Lin continues to be love-struck as he walks away, and the next day he announces that the best employees will be rewarded. Huang and Bao are selected as the best employees, and he announces that Huang will no longer come to work, so another employee named Liang Ming will take his position, which shocks everyone, but this is just Kyan's way of ensuring that no good employee stays in the company. He explains that he will give Huang a starting capital of 1,000,000 yuan to start his own company so he can fulfill his dream, and reveals that Bao will be getting an unlimited paid vacation, but Bao rejects it because he would rather play games in the office. Kyan tells him to go explore the world to broaden his horizons so he can help them make even better games, and Bao bends before the insistence. Kyan announces the end of the best employee ceremony, and reveals that they will be starting a new project from tomorrow. The next day, Huang prepares to leave the office after packing his things, but the other employees congratulate him for starting a new company, so he gets emotional and rushes to leave. On the way out, Halu tells him that the funds will be transferred to him the moment he decides what he wants to do, and explains that Kyan said that a proposal was not needed so he can directly do whatever he wants. Huang says that he knows Kyan wants him to expand Tengda's business plan, which is totally the opposite of what Kyan actually wants, and Halu asks if he wants to meet Kyan before leaving, but Huang says Kyan must also be sad right now so he won't meet him. However, Kyan dances around in his office because the funds for the next project are 1,000,000 yuan, and he believes that he will be able to lose even more money this time. Huang also encounters Lin and Liang Ming on his way out, and he asks Liang Ming to take care of the updates for the project oil rig. But Liang Ming reveals that Kyan forbade them from adding any updates in the previous games, which shocks Huang because updating the games would bring in more profit. Liang Ming complains about how he has just been promoted and has already been assigned a new project even though he has no idea about how to do things yet. Lin explains that Kyan is the type of person who never stops progressing or runs from a challenge, which is why he wants them to overcome challenges too. Meanwhile, Kyan decides that he will just buy pre-made resources for the new game instead of creating them to increase the cost, and needs to slow down the development pace so the employees don't get enough time to improve it. He recalls how the richest told him that he will need to add more microtransactions in the previous games if he wants to update them, which would bring in more money. That's why he decided not to update them. He comes up with a plan to sabotage the game and recalls his previous mistake of trusting Bao and Huang too much, so he decides that he won't let Liang Ming any chance to develop the game freely this time. He calls them for a meeting in which explains the direction of the new game and how it will be a game in which a player chooses different options as a game producer, which all lead to a different ending. The game's objective is to expose the gaming industry's problems and its dark side, and the player must make a profit somehow based on the choices he makes. Lin notices that this plan has very less NPC interaction that will bore the players, so Kyan adds that they will add narration which will roast the players, thinking that the players will hate the game because of this. Later, Kyan and Yang's winter break starts, so Kyan decides to go on a holiday after leaving all the dubbing to Liang Ming so he cannot focus on development. Liang Ming, being a rookie dubber, does no better than those funny Indian dubs on YouTube, so Lin makes him do it over and over again, but he doesn't get it right a single time. He complains about how he should be focusing on development instead of narration, and Lin scolds him for not understanding that the narration is the core of this game, so he should improve the game through proper narration. She lectures him about how the narration guides the player to making a profitable choice, and Liang Ming understands how profit-driven companies are ruining the gaming industry. They go into a world of delusion and think that the game is being made to speak for the players, which is so not true, but Liang Ming manages to properly record all the dialogues afterward due to their delusional enlightenment. On the bus, Kyan tells Heilu that he is going on holidays and to give the employees some holidays too. After a few days, Bao returns to the office from his vacations and requests that he be allowed to work again because he feels empty otherwise. He returns to his post and is overjoyed to experience everything again, but refrains from working because Kyan ordered him to only play games. At night, Huang visits the office and they have a drink together, but end up deciding to secretly optimize Project Oil Rig to help the company. They all get calls from players asking for new updates and soon realize that someone secretly updated the games along with a 10,000 people petition asking for more microtransactions. Kyan is shocked that so many people want to spend more money, but he announces that they still won't be updating the game, so Lin tells him that someone has already updated the game secretly, which pains his heart because they'll get more money. The next day, Ryun comes into the office to find Yang but gets caught by Heilu, so he hands her a USB containing new designs for Phantom General for its update so she can hand it to Kyan, but she suggests he should give it to Kyan himself. She takes him to his office, but he's reluctant to go inside, so she directly opens the door so Kyan can see him. After a while, he comes out and tells Heilu that Kyan asked him to make a poster for their new game. Later, Kyan checks the initial version of the game and finds it fabulous enough to make him lose money, so he thanks Liang Ming for following his orders to the dot. He reveals that they will launch the game on April's Fool's Day and hands him a marketing plan that he came up with to market the game. He recalls his meeting with Ryun where he tells Ryun that he won't be updating the Phantom General, but Ryun starts yapping about how Tengda came up from the bottom and now people look forward to its every game. Kyan realizes that Tengda is in the spotlight now, so marketing would be a good way to increase the cost, so he needs to market in a way that people hate the game instead. In the present, Lin reads the marketing plan made by Kyan and wonders why he suddenly chose to market the game using such a weird way. After a while, the roaster from before, Kaio, sighs over his fall from fame after his video on Kyan's game went viral, and he suddenly gets a message from Tengda about a sponsor. He enthusiastically replies and gets a call from Lin, who offers him 10,000 yuan, which is way above his expectations. But when he sees that the script is to recommend the game sincerely, he instantly rejects it because his channel is all about roasting games instead of recommending it. She tells him that the script cannot be changed even a little bit and offers him 20,000 yuan instead, so he asks if he can play the game first, but she tells him that he will only get a 10-second clip using which he will promote the game. He rejects their offer to save his dignity, but she raises the price to 50,000 yuan and dignity goes out the window. He notices that this game is also by Kyan and wonders if it's his way of taking revenge for roasting his previous game. Lin tells Kyan that he accepted the offer, which makes him happy, and Kaio despairs over his broken conscience. That night, Lin goes to the office late and finds Bao and Huang working on Project Oil Rig, but decides to keep it a secret. They discuss how the new game is way ahead of its time, and the talk turns deep about how Kyan must feel lonely as no one can match his vision. Bao talks about how many people could not like the game, making the company lose a lot of money, and wonders how hard it must be for Kyan to make such a decision. The next day, along with the game launch, Kaio finally uploads his video based on the childish script in which he love bombs Tengda and the game, and all the employees are shocked by the video. Heilu enters the room and tells Kyan that everyone online is criticizing Tengda because they bought out Kaio, making him release such a video. The players even send blades to the office, and the online community hates Tengde while pitying Kyo. After a while, Haelu tells the employees that Kyan ordered them to go home early if they don't have any work to do, and Bao asks for the data on the new game. Yang reveals that there have only been a few downloads up till now, and they have been getting negative remarks about the marketing. Some are calling the narration insulting, and some are saying that Tengde lost all the reputation it had built previously. Liang Ming cries over how he failed to make the game succeed, but Huang enters the office and tells them that he brought a friend who works in the media, so they should prepare to recover that lost reputation through an interview. The interviewer named Hu makes a very negative video about Tengde using small clips from the interview, which angers Lin, whose boss arrives with Lai to tell her that she did a good job, and she says that after she releases her video, it will only increase the hate people have for Tengde, which will destroy everything they've built up. Lai tells her that he had played the game and her video only contains the facts, nothing exaggerated, but after a while, Lin barges into their office, calling her out for malicious editing, whose boss comes running from behind and takes Lin's side, calling it a misunderstanding that Hu will fix. Lin tells her that Tengde is a great company and Kyan is the best boss, so they should report the facts only. She leaves after saying that, and Hu's boss tells her to listen to Lin because Lai's Fuhui capital is nothing compared to Lin's Shenhua group. Who knew she was so rich, because it turns out she owns the multi-million-dollar Shenhua group. The next day, Hu goes to Kyan's office to interview him and asks why he agreed to only answer 3 questions, so he replies that he doesn't want to waste his time. He assumes that she will make a negative article about him if he is mean to her, but she compliments him for being honest instead. She asks him why he agreed to the interview even though he has always been mysterious, so he explains that Lin kept calling him after every 5 minutes, so he had no other choice, but Hu sees it as a romance between a rich heiress and an upcoming elite. She tells him that she is about to begin the recording, but he reminds her that she only has 1 question left, but she questions if they were official, so he tells her that her 3 questions have been used now. She requests him to only answer 1 more question and asks him why he makes games, so he replies that he does it to lose money. At night, Kyo gets nightmares about all the comments he has been getting about being a sellout, so he decides to play the game that ruined his reputation at least once. He starts playing the game and begins finding it a little interesting, so he continues to play it and finds the hardships in the game similar to the hardships he faced when he started out. He recalls the time he was starting out and the negative comments he got at that time, and finds it similar to the narration in the game, which makes him believe that the game is a masterpiece. The next day, Hu releases her interview filled with praise for Tengde, Kyan, and their new game, along with positive clips of all the employees. Liang Ming enters the room and announces that Kyo's new video about their new game has gone viral, so Kyan opens the video to see what it's about. In the video, Kyo talks about how the video released on April's Fool was just a performance art that Kyan wanted to use to show how people's brains are malnourished because they let a single video ruin a game made after so many efforts. Kyan is shocked by what Kyo is saying, and Kyo explains how the new game is a masterpiece that exposes the cruelties of a game producer, but he was also able to relate it because all the producers of any art face these same situations. He says that Tengde must have predicted that this game would get a bad response, but still went through with it because they wanted to wake up the people, so in short, Kyo just made up a whole new philosophy that is the furthest thing from truth. Kyan hears everyone cheering outside as the game goes viral, and leaves the office in despair, feeling all alone against the whole world. He gets a call from Lai, who calls the interview disgusting, which makes Kyan feel better, and Lai tells him that he is against Tengde before cutting the call. Kyan feels like he finally has someone who wants to see Tengde fail as much as him, and suddenly the richest appears from a fountain. He gives Kyan a new special mission and explains that the original profit conversion rate will be increased from 1% to 10% if Kyan can successfully complete this mission. Will Kyan no longer have to work alone to make a loss, or will he fail this mission and continue to be alone? Comment your thoughts below and make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more.